Hello, everybody. Welcome to the TikvahMinds show. Been a few days, hasn't it? We did a show, I think, sometime last week. I think it may have been like a Thursday. Took Friday off a little bit. I did work, though. So I really didn't take it off. That's how it goes. That's how it goes when you are your own boss and have to work sometimes when you didn't necessarily intend to. But hey, so I'm borrowing a green screen right now. Kind of cool. Anyway, I should do this. So I recorded last week's show, episode 123, that's what this is. And this, which is not recording, this is live right now. Happening today on June 22nd, 2021, unless I did a time travel. But I did recording, and it was I was using an application to do the recording so I could throw in music or different things. Anyway, yeah, it does not like the program I stream through. I do stream to YouTube. Doesn't like it. I get all sorts of craziness. I get all sorts of feedback because I'm also recording directly on my computer too. And so anyway, it turned into a mess, and I have no idea what I was talking about anyway, probably, and that, which is per normal sometimes. And so anyway, that's what happened to that show. And try to think of other things. Let's check with exactly, see where we're at. I think we have like $190 left on our crowdfund, which is absolutely fantastic. We're also currently sitting in and about just a little over 2 weeks left. And we're 94% funded, which is absolutely fantastic. So we're really, really, really close. And that's so incredibly exciting. And there is so much that I've learned from this process, and just in terms of, okay, what do we need to do better for next time, those types of things. So when this campaign is done in the next 12 days, we will be, so under 2 weeks, really. What we'll be doing is I'll be doing a reassess and all those types of things. But more importantly than that, we'll be setting up to, and because of our circumstances, again, outside of my control or those types of things in regards to family or different emergencies that happened last week, we're currently, I hope to get that, we started flatting, we started coloring, but I hope to get the book out by to the printers. I'm looking at my calendar right now. I'm looking to get that all out by that week after the 4th of July, so the 5th through the 9th. Hoping to get it out to the printers by that night. So anyway, we're sitting on time, but there's going to be a couple of nights where there's going to be some late nights, which is fine. That's what we do, right? We get it done. And so that's where that is. I found, and of course, that this always happens. It always happens. You always hit one of the things when you're going through a comic book and you're developing a comic book, all those types of things. And you do a really good job of staying organized, staying, just one step at a time, working through it all. And there always seems to be some sort of, like, you're going back through your work, and you're like, this looks good, or different things you can do to fix mistakes and those types of things that are fairly simple. And then there's I don't know, it's one of these things where you work really hard to clean up all those different possibilities or different things that could be happening. And something pops up where, like, dang it, okay, I need to go back and fix that. So that's happening to 2 pages, which is no big deal, but that's what this is. That's comic books. That's what making comic books is all about. You go through these things. And so There's I remember hearing stories, and like it's sort of like always sort of a treasure hunt. If you can find, when instead of, tracing it all in or coloring it all in, and sort of like your pencil, when you're doing your type pencil, you'll just do an X, like this is all black type of a thing. And there's when occasionally you'll go through and you'll do the same thing when you're going to go inking, and you're inking, and some of the inkers will do that, and they'll just X off that just as a reminder of, hey, I need to go back to that. And then just because of life, because of this, that, and the other, gets lost in the shuffle, and before you know it, oh no, it's going off to print, and there's a smack dab in the middle of my artwork, there's a huge X. So those things happen. They happen throughout the industry. It's almost sort of like a treasure hunt. If you can find sort of a Batman with an X on it, you've struck gold. So I wanted to, one things I did want to talk about today is that I got into yesterday, I was going through YouTube, as it were, and ran into old videos or old recordings of, and there's very few of J.R.R. Tolkien, and him talking about the Lord of the Rings. And I absolutely love Lord of the Rings, love the story, the world that he created. It's just it's easy to relate to in many ways, and it's in some ways it's hard to articulate. Where's that relationship? Where's that in terms of relating to that? Where's that come from? And I think in a lot of ways he was certainly tapping into, you can go through all the way from the Sanscripts to, and I think I've talked about this on the show before in the past, where you can go all the way back to the Sanscripts, or you can go all the way back to, like, this culture has a story of Beauty and the Beast, and then this culture on the other side of the planet has this story of Beauty and the Beast, and there doesn't necessarily seem to be a connection point as terms of where the roots of those stories and where they come from. And you have your sort of your Brothers Grimm, and they did a masterful job of combining some of those and bringing some of those stories into, well, as we would say today, pulp culture type of a thing, obviously for their time. And it's just interesting that with that bringing these sort of stories back, that Tolkien was doing this in essence of bringing that from a distant past in somewhere in existence, because Middle Earth or Midgard, sort of this idea of Earth, that's basically what it is, and going back to that. And stories have to have these elements of things that are, maybe it's something that is relation, that some sort of, ancestral memory that exists in our DNA or exists in connection to our soul, in terms of the struggles we've been through. And he did a absolutely masterful job of tapping into that. And when we look at stories these days, or this whole thing of, like, let's be so inclusive that we're actually going to be in the end exclusive. Like, you're going to be so inclusive that we ultimately have to exclude, well, in this case, the fans, in many cases. And it's interesting. And I think what it comes down to, in my opinion, is that a lot of what we're experiencing these days is designed to divide us in every way possible. And I think that really comes down to, in a lot of ways, this sort of, I think that's where the roots of where the last colony and this idea of this civil war, this kind of comes from. Not in the sense that I'm looking for a civil war. My God, that'd be horrific. That'd be terrible. To live through the ideas of, like, the Book of Eli, or even worse, like the Road with Viggo Mortensen. It's just it that sounds horrible. Absolutely horrible. Mad Max. as fun as Mad Max, the most recent one was, or even the old ones with Mel Gibson. It's just that sounds absolutely terrible. So I can't state that enough and can't make that clear enough. But it was just interesting to listen to Tolkien and listen to the questions that he was being asked. And there was one particular question in terms of why didn't you bring sexuality into this? And he's like, I'm writing, in essence, these are my words again. Essence, I'm writing this to young boys. This is my young boys are my market. And it's interesting that how we've taken our own modern tendencies, if you will, modern, right? Tendencies, and put it with something that he never intended, which brings to the point of write your own story, do your own thing type of a thing. So I guess I mention all this because when I titled the show, sometimes it's good to take a moment. And I think in these crazy times, in the realization of what our possibilities are, what our potentials are, it's good, and it's so incredibly important to take moments to, where am I going, what are we doing, and ultimately how can we bring people together, not in a forceful way, not in a condescending way, or not in a way of you're a horrific person if you believe XYZ. It's that is the opposite. It's just like the whole thing of, like, I remember in the early 2000s and in the 90s, these ideas of diversity really coming up and that type of thing. And it's interesting that in all we've become so diversity that we've lost the essence. We've become the thing that we've, just like the ring. You take upon the ring, you ultimately become the thing you were actually out to fight against. You're becoming the thing that you sought out to destroy. And that's the temptation of the ring. It's just so, and I think what makes his work such a masterpiece, because it doesn't, and I think he worked hard in the sense of not relating it to like World War I or World War II, where yes, there's these elements that exist there, but it's not the core design of what it's actually about, right? So I guess, it was interesting when I was one of the videos on Tolkien. He's writing he's writing this in something in Elvish in the back of a book that he's given, that someone has bought or some sort of thing. I don't know what it is, if the interviewer or whatever. And he's writing in Elvish. And he even goes as far as to make a mistake. Oh shoot, I made a mistake type of thing. Again, my words. And he's made a mistake. And then he goes back and he's like, well, ultimately it would be silly that everyone be speaking Elvish, because actually I didn't finish the language to begin with. It's just interesting that we get caught up in all this nonsense that we don't realize where we are on this journey. And then actuality, we're in an amazing spot. I guess that's my ultimate point. And regardless of all the things that are set out to try to divide us, in the end, it will do the opposite, and it will ultimately unite us. It has to. That's the cool thing. And I think that's exactly what Tolkien was getting at. Those are my thoughts on it. I don't know. Take your 2 cents from it. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and we will see you later.